Hello people of Earth and other YouTube watchers, my name is Kristen and today I'm going to talk to you about the balance between religion and reading. So if you haven't seen it yet, Natasha over at Tashapolis just published a video about how she balances Christ and reading in her life. She was very clear in her video that she's not forcing anything on you, but that she's just trying to explain her struggle and is interested in hearing about yours. So if you haven't watched it yet, definitely go check her out. I'll link it down below. Now, personally, I'm not a Christian. I'm a religion called Unitarian Universalism. And I think that the way that I view reading is a different perspective than Natasha's, and I kind of wanted to share it. So Unitarian Universalism derived from Christianity, but has changed very greatly over the past 100 years or so. Basically, we're a religion that doesn't so much focus on whether or not you believe in a deity or a god, whether or not you believe in multiple gods, if you believe in a heaven and a hell. It doesn't so much focus on that kind of aspect as it does on morality and to follow your personal belief system to the best of your ability and to be a good person. So Natasha was talking about how she first noticed her internal struggle about religion and reading inside the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare when they talk about demons and the Bible and angels, and that's something that she goes to church for weekly. And I didn't even consider the fact that the Bible was such a big part of it and how that would affect Christians and people who follow that until I saw her video. Now, I don't think it's fair to say that I did something wrong, but I do think that I was very unaware of religion in books and morality in books and how those can affect you. So some of the religion I've seen in books, in addition to the Mortal Instruments, is in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series with the fallen angels, and in both the Percy Jackson and Covenant series with Greek gods. Now, in the Percy Jackson series, in the beginning, there is a part when Chiron says, we're not going to deal with the metaphysical of whether or not there is a god, and they kind of avoid that subject. But I do think that inserting a different religion means a lot to the reader. Now, personally, when I'm reading a story, I place myself in that story and in that world. So if everyone I'm reading about believes in the Greek gods or believes in a certain kind of extraordinary power or something such as angels or demons, I tend to put myself there also, and whether or not I fully believe it, I'm thinking in that mindset. And I think that I was unaware of how strongly this shows on how books can affect you religiously. But I think that it's really important to respect the religion in books and to be able to isolate your personal faith from that of the faith that you're reading. And to be able to say, even though I'm reading this and enjoying this and thinking about these, still being able to kind of put your own personal beliefs and beliefs in a bubble and keep that safe with you and don't let outside influences change it. Because my religion is more of a morality religion, I also wanted to talk about how books can affect your morality and how reading about certain topics can influence you and the way you think. Now, some of the first books that came to mind when I thought about this were, of course, The Hunger Games, again, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and the Mara Dyer trilogy, and each one for a different reason. So The Hunger Games is, of course, hugely controversial because of what I'm bringing up, and it's because of the morality of having people kill other people, and you want to be very aware of what's happening in the story and the deaths that are being lost. And I think that in modern day life, and due to modern day reading, it's very easy to start looking at the deaths as numbers as opposed to individual people whose families and lives they just ended. And personally, that's hard for me to accept morally. I don't want to think about the statistics of it. I want to think about the people who were part of a tragedy. And it's not as difficult if you knew the person. Going back to the Hunger Games, there were a couple people that Katniss got close to, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but there were a couple people that Katniss was close to that died, and it was very, very easy to feel bad about that and to cry for those people. But then there were other people that Katniss didn't know personally who died, and the story just moves on. And I get that, and I don't have any problem with that, but I just think that it's really important to take a moment and to remember that they were people too, and that books make it easy to move on, but you shouldn't always just forget. Now, going right on to the next one, very similarly with Mara Dyer, Mara began the series as, I wouldn't say carefree, but as a more light on the inside person. She was more innocent. And by the end of the series, her soul itself seemed to have been darkened. And she wasn't the same person she was when she began. I think that while I was reading that series, it really challenged me to consider what events can do to you and what even the events in books can do to you. Thinking about things the way characters do changes the way that you think about small little things in your life. I think you would take what happened to them and whether or not you know it, subconsciously relate it to something that happened in you, that happens to you, and that could influence you. I think that that's something that so few people are aware of. Readers on YouTube, we read the story for the characters and the plot. We don't read the story for how it will change you as you read it, or for how you will be different afterwards. You read the story to read the story because it's a good story. But I think that it's really, really important to notice how you're affected by the story that you're reading and how the plot and the events and occurrings and happenings change you. And the Daughter of Smoke and Bone, I'm going to put my hand up, and when I put my hand down, it means spoiler-free section, but I'm going to spoil something for the series. So if you haven't read the first 2 books, mute your camera now. So, mute. The way that Akiva killed Karu's family, I see why he did it, but it was horribly wrong, and it's completely wrong, and it's not going to just get better. They don't come back. You can't bring them back after that. And I see how Akiva felt, and I see how Karu felt, and I haven't read the 3rd book, so I don't know if they're going to get together or not, but I think that it's really, really important that the fandom recognize how horrible that was, and I'm sure that some of us have. Personally, I thought it was very easy to get caught up in how they were feeling toward each other and the betrayal, but it wasn't very easy to just sit back and take a moment and reflect on what Akiva did, and how even though he was hurt about Karu, and even though he was sad about everything that happened, his response was to go off and to kill her family. That personally affected me really deeply, because they didn't deserve that. And he didn't stop to think that Karu was different and maybe they could be too, and that he could change that. He just killed them because he was hurt and angry. I'm sorry I keep looking away from the camera. I have a really hard time focusing on one spot and thinking. I have to like zone off in the distance. That's just about all I have. Let me know down in the comments about how you think religion and morality is affected by what you read, and how you, by what you read and how you process those things. If you haven't seen Natasha's video, please go check it out. It was amazingly well done. Yeah, I think that's just about all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in another video. Until I see you next time, read, adore, and ship it more. Bye!